Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to Supergirl Radio Live and Wired. We're going to get started here in a second. Morgan, I see you are down there. You ready to go? I've had a very busy catch-up time because I was in Metropolis, Illinois this past weekend. So I'm trying to catch up on all the things. So I'm a little bit behind. So sorry for sending the Google Doc late
No
and all
worries.
of the things. So, and if people don't know, you can see some of the Q&A panels from Superman Celebration on the DCTV Podcasts YouTube channel right here. So you can check out Brandon Routh and Elizabeth Tulloch if you would like to. But don't do it right now because we're going to be talking about My Adventures with Superman Season 2, Episodes 3 and 4. So if you want to talk about those, hang tight because we'll get here started in a minute. Are we ready to go?
Yep.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is 𝙈𝙮 𝘼𝙪𝙧𝙀 Boardroom or Ballroom. Because really?
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. It's so fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And we are live and wired on the DCTV Podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page to discuss my adventures with Superman. So let's go ahead and get into the discussion. We're going to be talking about Fullmetal Scientist, which is Season 2, Episode 3. And I pulled the max description for this one. It reads, quote, Clark's life falls apart as the general goes into hiding in Clark's apartment. Meanwhile, Jimmy struggles with being a leader, and Lois goes toe-to-toe with Vicky Vale as they track down missing scientists! Exclamation point, unquote. So since this episode had to do with science and scientists, Morgan, what did you think about getting to hang out with Silas Stone and Dr. John Irons?
I thought you were going to be like, oh, let's go to the lab cats to see what they have.
Well, are they chiming in?
Of course, the one time that Bunsen has not noticed the limelight. Bunsen. Nope. He's not interested.
No.
I just thought I would give him the opportunity if he wanted to weigh in on the scientific method being shown in this episode. No, I really like the introductions of these two characters. Silas Stone. I have to admit, I was trying to refresh my memory on this episode because I watched it last week. And so I was like reading the recaps, and somebody on the recaps was like, yes, Victor Stone's father. And I was like, whoa, yeah, got that. Totally picked that up the first time. I did not at all. I was like, oh, shoot. And then like my brain exploded. So now, like in hindsight, I think that's a very cool Easter egg. But at the time, I was just like, oh, yeah, this guy. I can't imagine that there's any foreshadowing here at all.
Yeah, future cyborg dad.
Yep.
So that's who Silas Stone is, as Rachel points out in the chat.
And they mentioned his son, too. He was like, I have to protect my son. And I was like, yeah, just some guy.
Yeah, just some guy and his son. Just some random father and random son. I think it's Livewire who mentions that Victor Stone, his son, is somewhere around 9 or 10 years old. So he'll still be a young guy in this version of the story. So Silas Stone almost catches on fire. Livewire's going to hunt him down because he has a video that shows that what they're doing at Amertech is very dangerous, including kind of being a bomb that could explode and destroy the entire city.
Some bombs.
So pretty important stuff, but Livewire needs him to delete it, so he does to protect himself. What did you think about Dr. Henry Irons?
I really liked this character. I thought he was really cool. I not super familiar with the DC Comics character, so I actually like paused the episode to Google because I was like, I know he's somebody, I've heard the name, and I was just like not putting it together. So I'm not super familiar with the Steel character in the comics and in some of the the live action adaptations, but I thought in this one he was really cool. I really liked him. I liked his sort of like scientisty vibe. I like that he realized that like the things that they created, weren't quite ready for prime time, because of the exploding thing, and was like, hey, we gotta not put these out there. And then the other guys were like, no, I think that they're totally ready. The exploding is one of the features. And I really liked when he got into the suit at the end and helped Superman protect the city. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, big fan of him. I hope that he I could definitely see him popping up again later in the season. And I hope he does because I liked the character.
You would know all about Steel if you continued to watch Superman and Lois.
You mean past that one episode, the pilot? Yeah, he's a pretty big character in Superman and Lois, right? Like he's kind of a major character.
Pretty prominent character. Just to catch you up. The lab cats were, or one of the lab cats were. Was
he got shy. He shy. He was like, "No, I couldn't pop I haven't collected my thoughts yet. I don't know what I want to say."
So just to recap with Superman and Lois's version of Steel, John Henry on another Earth was married to Lois Lane, and they had a daughter.
Ooh.
And Lois was killed, and so that creates some tension when they arrive to the Superman and Lois Earth, where Lois Lane is still alive and looks exactly like his dead wife. This is very traumatic for them, as you can imagine. He also has a suit, and I think that one of my favorite parts about the Superman and Lois version is that I think they're hinting at a romance with Lana Lang.
Yes, because everything I've heard about this version of Lana Lang is that she is incredible, and I love her. I love her like little leopard print jackets, and I think that she deserves love. I think she deserves to find love. You told me that she was maybe briefly in a cult. Listen,
Lucy.
That's Lucy Lane.
But Lana
keep track of all these characters.
Lana had a very big moment during the cult storyline that I thought you would find enjoyable.
Oh no, I really do have to catch up on this.
You have to watch season 2. And the Steel John Henry and Lana romance is present in the comics, so it's not like they've pulled it out of nowhere for Superman and Lois. I think it is driving to that relationship from DC Comics, so it's pretty accurate, I think. So I think you would enjoy. You really need to catch up. I mean, season 2, if anything, for the cult story.
Listen, you had me at cult, and then you also had me at Lana Lang in a big leopard print jacket. Like that's sort of all I want from her. I love her. I watched the pilot and I was just like, what? You know what? Not a bad show. I think it's pretty solid. Obsessed with Lana. Obsessed. Love her vibe. Love the Real Housewife thing she's got going on.
She also becomes a politician. She also might get some control of Smallville.
All of this makes me so happy. Love that for her. Love her journey.
Because as we know, the best Lana Lang from Smallville was season 6 when she asserted control for herself.
Well, maybe not evil, maybe just misunderstood. But I prefer to think evil. Yeah, I liked in season 6 when they were like, "What if we had Lana go a little bit to the dark side?" And Kristen Kirk was like, "Let me do it. Let me at it."
So I should clear up that Lana in Superman Lois doesn't go evil, but she does rise to the occasion, and she has a little bit of authority and power.
Hashtag girl boss Lana.
Yes. So you definitely we've gone down a tangent, but all that to say, you should watch Superman and Lois, and I think they've done a really good job with John Henry and Steel. So I would recommend it. So what I like about the connection between Silas and Dr. Irons is that they are working together on some sciencey things, which I think is pretty cool to pair these two scientists up from DC Comics. And they kind of create Metallo, who is a known Superman villain, also debuted in the comics in the same issue that Supergirl did. So that is something worth noting.
I always forget about that. That's such a fun fact, though.
Yeah, Action Comics number 252, the first appearance of Metallo and the Supergirl at the same time. So I thought that was a cool way to incorporate all of those things. You get to bring in Metallo, the famous or infamous Superman villain, but then you also get to bring in these two scientists who usually play a part in Metropolis and Star Labs and here Amertech. So I thought that was a great way to incorporate all of those characters.
Yeah. So I have, speaking of Steel, John Henry Irons, Mind the Gap says, John Henry mentions his niece Natasha, who is also a superhero, but I was confused because some people thought Flip was Natasha. So Rachel says, I also thought Flip was Natasha. So I was a little unclear on this as well, just because of the way that the episode was set up. He talks about how his niece, Natasha, is a big fan of Flamebird.
Oh, shoot. I'm so out of practice. Hang on. All right. Give it to me one more time.
A big fan of Flamebird. And that's why the tip came in. But then it seemed like Flip got the tip. And then I was also a little unclear about whether Flip was Natasha or was his niece. So what did you make of that, Rebecca? Do you think she is his niece, or do you think she's just a separate character?
I thought she called him her uncle. I thought there was something in the episode that actually I think there's something that concretely solidifies that relationship, because that's what I thought. I thought Flip was Natasha as well, which is a different take, but I think it works for this iteration of Superman.
And we all love Flip. I mean, so going in with a strong character already.
Flip actually came in very clutch with the flying newsroom. And I guess maybe that's something that we could talk about as we continue on in the discussion.
One could argue if a child should be involved in any of this, but
Flip is not 10. Flip is 11 years old.
11 whole years old. So obviously she's ready to be in danger.
So what did you think about Team Flamebird and the flying newsroom and how things came into play there?
Yeah, I mean, I love Team Flamebird, obviously.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. I was looking at my notes. I'll give it one more time. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. I think it's so funny that his half of his team are basically just children. But the whole time Flip is saying, "Hey, I've got a good idea. I've got this great drone." And he's ignoring her. But what he learns is he has to play to the strengths of his team. And in this case, one of the strengths is she's got a drone, right? I guess another strength is that she probably knows, what grade would that be in? 4th grade math. 6th grade math. No, I think it's funny how especially Perry is laughing so hard at all of Jimmy's interns he doesn't quite know how to deal with, and Jimmy having to go from a lone wolf to having this team and still kind of not quite figuring out how to do it. But in the last episode, he took his team member's yacht idea, and that saved the day. And in this one, he listens to Flip and they use the drone and that saves the day. So I think he's learning some valuable lessons about being a manager. I mean, again, Flip is 11, but you know what? Management experience is management experience.
Yeah, and what I thought was great about the flying newsroom, as Flip calls it, Jimmy sort of dismisses it early on as just a toy helicopter. but Flip describes it as a, quote, fully functional Wi-Fi enabled helicopter with a totally illegal camera attached, unquote. And then says that they attached a, quote, totally safe but maybe not totally legal glitter gun to it, unquote. And the glitter gun ends up being what saves the day and stops the Metallos. So Flip's ingenuity, the creativity, the thinking outside of the box with the flying newsroom is what actually saved them all from the evil, crazy robots that they were talking about earlier on in the episode. So I think even if Jimmy doesn't want to send her to cover stories on her own, maybe working with other people, I think, could be safe and productive.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people might think to use a drone, but not a lot of people would think to put a glitter gun on a drone. And did that glitter gun save the day? It sure did. It sure did.
So I hope we see the flying newsroom come back. I think it was a good idea. I think you could add more like fun little things to it, kind of like Green Arrow's trick arrows. I think you could add a different little component to the flying newsroom.
I love it.
I think that would be super fun and a great idea. So I thought that Flip, even though Jimmy was making the right call earlier on in the episode, because he was like, I'm not sending you to cover stories on your own. You are 10. He is correct. That is a bad idea. But I think he learned at the end that John Henry is right, who tells Jimmy being a leader isn't about telling people what to do. It's about lifting people up and letting them shine. And I thought, that's a nice idea. That's a nice way to think about leadership. And Jimmy ended up letting Flip shine.
I think all the characters, except maybe Lois, learned a valuable lesson about teamwork in this episode. Lois learned that, like, you're going to probably want to, like, trap your rival in some sort of, like, building or, just get one step ahead. But the rest of them were like, yes, relying on others is a good thing. And I think Jimmy realized that, he can play to the strengths of his team, and that does a good thing for the city, obviously, kind of save the day, but also for Team Flamebird, because I bet they got a really good story out of it.
Yeah, way to go, Team Flamebird. So I think that gives us a nice segue. Thank you for that, to talk about Lois Lane and her rival / inspiration, her mentor, her hero in the world of journalism, Vicky Vale. They do go head to head, trying to outscoop each other in this one. And then by the end of the episode, Vicky offers Lois the number 2 reporter spot at the Gotham Gazette, which presents Lois with a quandary on what to do. So Morgan, what did you think about their rivalry and how they were trying to outdo each other?
I thought that the Lois and Vicky stuff in this episode was really funny and really fun, and I like their interactions. I like how, like, even though they really don't like each other and they're all like they're competing, there's like a layer underneath of it of them being like kind of respecting each other. Lois obviously thinks that Vicky is this veteran reporter who's gotten a lot of scoops, and Vicky sees that Lois's gumption, that she's willing to do anything. She's willing to ride a truck and and get herself into danger and out of danger to get the story. And I think when she, at the end of the episode, when she one-ups Vicky and has already filed her story, when Vicky's like, oh, guess what, I just filed my story, and Lois is like, in your face, it's been filed. It's like a very bring it on, it's already been brought in moment between the two of them. And I thought it was really well done. I really like when they bring in the Vicky character for stuff like that. I really like it because it kind of motivates Lois to be even more unhinged than she usually is, and that's a funny place to take her.
Yeah, Vicky says that nobody scoops Vicky Vale, and I think she did. I think Lois scooped Vicky Vale on this one, and I did enjoy that Lois manages to make her way into Amertech by nabbing a key card that was partially her plan, her more elaborate plan that she had with Clark / Superman to get into the Strikers Penitentiary, where she wanted to pretend to be this wealthy widow with the beautiful bodyguard, all that stuff.
Yeah.
This time she kind of did something similar to nab the key card, but she didn't really have a narrative. She didn't have a story this time.
I was disappointed by the lack of like a motivation, right? Like, who is her character? Where has she been?
But Lois does get creative on trying to get into places that she can't get into. So she did show a lot of gumption in this one. And what I really liked about Vicky and Lois going head to head is that they were truly after the truth. I mean, they were competing against each other, but they were holding Amertech and what's his face? I think Thomas Weston, the CEO who was doing the press conference, they were holding his feet to the fire. They were like, okay, what about this thing? What about this thing? What about this thing? This obviously is not working. So what's going on here? So they were actually asking really important questions that he did not want to answer at the end because his presentation went south. So
I like that they like built on each other's questions too. So like Vicky would ask a question and Lois would be like, as a follow up to that question, like what about this other thing? And they kind of went back and forth. He obviously wasn't ready to get any kind of critical questions at all, and he was like, shut it down, bye bye.
Yeah, so I did like their interplay, and I think by even the end of episode 4 that we'll talk about next time around, but the quandary of what she's going to do is still sort of unanswered. So Lois is still trying to think through this job offer because Vicky has been keeping tabs on her. She knows all about Lois's promotion at the Daily Planet. So she's been watching young Lois Lane and what she's doing. So I think it's cool that Lois gets to have that interaction with someone she looks up to, and that person also shows interest in her and thinks that she's doing a good job. So I liked that for Lois.
Yeah, and I did like the twist of her offering her a job at the was it the Gotham Gazette?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is, it's a big opportunity to work with one of the top reporters in the area, and like it seems like Vicky would kind of maybe like mentor her. She wants her to be like kind of her number 2. So it's a big opportunity for Lois, but she would have to leave.
She'd have to live in Gotham, though.
She'd have to live in Gotham, and Gotham is not like a great area. Like, yes, I know Metropolis is always being invaded by aliens, but I feel like I would take the aliens over like the Joker and the weirdos that are always sort of running around Gotham. I don't know. Gotham doesn't seem like real unsafe place. Yeah, real unsafe. And then like the hero over there, he's so sad all the time. I'm gonna take Superman.
But he punches evil in the face, and that's what you want in Gotham. Yeah. So it's a real toss up on what should she do. Evil alien crazy robots or evil crazy clowns. I guess that is
big questions. Big questions. I'm avoiding the clowns if at all possible.
Evil clowns are definitely something to be avoided. Speaking of things to be avoided, this was our introduction to seeing General Sam Lane try to live with Clark and Jimmy in their apartment and how they maneuver that situation. So Morgan, how do you think they did? Were they able to sort of keep Superman or Clark's secret identity? Do you think Sam is onto Clark?
I don't feel like I think Sam's on to Clark because I think that he just like dislikes Clark so much. And he's like, this guy is so flaky. This guy is so weird. Like, why do you like this guy? Lois, why do you like this guy? I think it's such an insane plot twist to have him living with Jimmy and Clark. With Lois knowing that that her dad has let's say conflicted relationship with Superman. I think we can say that, and not liking Superman very much. I don't why would she offer her boyfriend's house for him to live in, who she knows is Superman? It just seems like a mistake.
I did like at the beginning of the episode, Superman can't fly into the window as he probably normally does, and so Jimmy has to figure out a way to get Clark some clothes so that he can change into some normal clothes and come into the apartment. So I did like that Jimmy had his back there and understood that he had to help Clark with that. But it does seem like I don't know. I think Sam is understandably noticing that there's something not quite right with Clark. I don't think he knows that he is Superman at the moment, but he definitely knows something is off with Clark Kent and really just thinks that maybe he's just kind of a slacker, I guess.
He's like, this Clark, I don't know if he's got motivation.
He calls him clumsy and a flake and says he's late for everything, calls him oblivious, which Clark really takes to heart by the end of the episode because he thinks, the stuff with the big conclusion of the episode, maybe he was late to everything. Maybe he was oblivious to what was happening. But Superman still saved the day. So that's really what matters in the end. So lots of family dynamics, work dynamics in this episode for sure. And a lot of science that was happening.
So much science.
Some bombs that were going on. It was a pretty exciting episode.
I like that they saw that like the Metallo suits were like kind of blowing up and they're like, what if we added this to the top of a building for drama?
What are you doing?
Why would you make a bigger version of this? That just seems like a mistake.
They called it, what did they say? That the Metallo had, so they say it was 100% green, which I wondered if it was a reference to future green kryptonite that would be in the mech suit for Metallo. But they said it had Amera fusion, which is cleaner than fossil fuel, and that technology is basically like building an atomic bomb. So it's green, I guess, but really it's world destroying is what it is. So not exactly green when you think about it in terms of the environment and being environmentally friendly. I don't think so. Yeah, it's pretty much a toss up for that.
Now I'm trying to remember again. I watched this a week ago, and I kind of skimmed through the episode to refresh my memory. It ends with Lex and Amanda Waller getting all those suits, which seems like a bad thing.
Yeah, there is an army of Metallos that
not good.
Task Force X ends up with. Not great. Those are definitely the people that you do not want to have with that in their possession. Actually, I'm trying to remember, was that the third episode or the fourth episode? But either way, I think it is the third episode. I was trying to make sure in my notes. But yeah, they I don't know what they're doing with that, but not great.
Nothing good. Mandy, what are you up to, girl?
Yeah, Lex Luthor has really we'll talk more about Lex in episode 4, but he has really settled into his evil villain status. I think he's happy there. He feels good.
He's liking it. He's hitting his stride.
Just to hit the chat before we wrap up this discussion about the episode. Mind the Gap says the way the suits were lined up reminded me of those robots from the Superman Fleischer shorts. Good pull. I think that's a fair comparison to make because lots of robots in that one. And if you as a listener or viewer have not seen the Fleischer Superman shorts, definitely go give them a watch. They still hold up today. The chat also says, especially Mind the Gap, also comments that Weston, the guy who gave the press conference and his presentation didn't go so well. He is a Steel character from DC Comics. So, so it's cool to see that that connection is here in the storyline.
And I did want to pull up one more Mind the Gap comment on fire today
with the comment,
which is that the name of the episode is a reference to a manga and anime called Fullmetal Alchemist, which I actually knew, although I don't think I've seen more than an episode or two of it, but it's a very popular anime. So I thought when I saw the title of the episode, I laughed and I was like, well played.
Yeah, lots of anime-inspired things in this one. Morgan, what did you think about this episode in terms of just the overall enjoyability of it?
Yeah, I like this one a lot. I like when we get to see Team Flamebird in action, so especially the junior members of the team. Always fun to see how they're going to incorporate 11-year-olds into the mix, what they're bringing to the table. I really liked the Lois and Vicky Vale storyline where they're competing to get the story. I think it's really fun to see like Lois kind of get out there on her own and do journalism and go undercover and do anything to find the story. And I like the introductions of some of the characters that they introduced here. Where honestly, had you asked me before I read the recap, I would have said, who? Silas Stone? Who is who? But now I think it's a fun Easter egg. But I really liked John Henry Irons in this one. I thought it was a really good introduction to his character, and I like how at the end of the episode, Clark finally figures out what he wants to write about for his article, which is like the non-superhero heroes among us, which like John Henry Irons, who went out there and saved the city and really put himself in danger to help other people. So I thought that was a really good. I thought it was overall a really good episode. I haven't found one in this show so far that I haven't enjoyed watching, honestly.
Yeah, I thought that article it really wasn't an article. I would say it was more like an editorial opinion piece. But I
one
think
of my favorite things about pop culture and like movies and TV shows is when they'll be like, "Oh, I wrote the article," and then you'll read the article and it's like somebody's diary entry. It's like
it's like a first person.
Today I saw John Henry Irons. He was real dreamy. He did lots of heroic stuff, and I think we should all applaud him. Anyway, those are the facts. Bye. It's like, that's not really, news. It's not really an article. I mean, I guess it's maybe like an opinion. I would like it if like by the end of the season they put Clark on like the like puppy like kittens and trees beat, like the human interest stories where it's like
great at that.
I think he would be great at that, where it's like Edna is 102 years old and she's just celebrated her birthday by jumping out of a plane, by skydiving or something like that, like those wacky human interest stories. I feel like Clark would be really good at those. The hard-hitting news, maybe not so much.
That's what Lois is for.
That's sort of the Lois's track. Like let's put Clark on the human interest stuff.
But I think that's something that brings out the Superman in his Clark Kent. Being able to say, "Hey, I know Superman. I try, as Superman, I try to save the day and help people out. But there are other people who are saving the day too, and doing things just as important as what Superman does." So I think that actually shows a very Supermanly trait from him, to be able to point out of humility that other people helped him and provided, the ability to save the day and save everybody in Metropolis. And I also should mention, this was something that I had to look up. When Superman does save Silas Stone from a burning building, he has this like force field, like energy that's going around him.
Oh, yes. I wanted to talk about this. I'm glad you brought that up because it was like the number one thing I wanted to talk about and I completely forgot about it. So that shows how my brain's going. But yeah, he uses this force field energy thing like a couple of times in the episode, like once in the burning building, I think. And then later on when the bomb goes off to kind of contain the explosion. This is a new one for me in terms of Superman's powers. I don't think personally in any of the Superman media I've consumed so far, I've seen this. So is there, I would assume that there is some sort of background in the comics for this, but is there?
So some people, I was trying to figure out what other people might be saying about it. And some people believe this is a reference to Superman Blue from DC Comics. So this is not something I'm super familiar with. I know of Superman Blue. I've never read the storyline. Some people, if you ask them about it, they're like, it wasn't that great of a storyline. So I don't know how good it is, but I've heard that people didn't much care for it. But there is a Superman Blue and a Superman Red. So this could be Superman Blue-ish. I'm not totally sure, but that's what some people believe this to be.
Yeah, I was interested in it because I've seen a good amount of Superman stuff throughout the years. I haven't read a lot of the comics, but I have watched a lot of the media that's come out Superman wise. And this was the first time I think I've seen like a force field situation happening. So I was interested. I was like, oh, that's new. Like, is this something brand new for this show, or is this coming out of something? I see Brian in the chat said, could the force field be part of the Superman aura that protects his clothes?
Could possibly be. I was trying to think. I was racking my brain like, what is this? What could this be? So it could be that, or it could be the Superman blue theory. And Morgan, I think you'll find this kind of hilarious. Just going off the description of Superman blue from a DC fandom wiki. Superman blue was originally an alternate a version of Superman from Earth 162, created when he used a mind-enhancing machine powered by kryptonite to increase his intelligence. The radiation caused Superman to split into two super intelligent beings, the Superman Red and Superman Blue. Eventually, they saved the world together, these two Supermen, and married Lois Lane and Lana Lang, respectively. So...
he really could have it all. Smallville Clark is like, yeah, I did it.
That's how they should have ended Smallville.
Oh my God. Why didn't they just do that? That would have been amazing. I actually maybe would have preferred it to the ending they went with. So yeah, no, that's amazing. The comics sometimes do some things that are okay. Sure, let's go with that.
A little wacky, and I'm trying to remember. So Superman Blue was created by Leo Dorfman and Kurt Swan, first appearing in Superman 162 in 1963. But I think Superman Blue and Superman Red also maybe were around the time of the death of Superman storyline. Somebody fact check me on that. I cannot remember. But if that's the case, there's a lot of death of Superman stuff happening in this season.
Yeah.
So my
personal opinion, my personal opinion is still that it is like too soon for that. But you know what? Sure, maybe.
So I don't know. I'm still wondering about that because Hank Henshaw is looming about still in the backgrounds of things. But we'll talk more about that in at the discussion of episode 4. But I really liked this episode. I welcome anytime Vicky Vale comes back and causes some problems for Lois. I'm very into that. I love Team Flamebird, children reporters and all. I really enjoy them. So I think and there was some depth to Superman. He really wanted to honor the heroes that he admired in this episode. So I thought that was a really sweet way to end the episode and to give him something to write about. I guess he was not assigned something to write about. It's kind of strange.
Feels like you should have been, but all right.
It feels like that's how most news organizations work. They like assign reporters something together.
Usually, but okay.
But that is how it went. He had to figure out what to write. But I thought this was a really great episode of A Fullmetal Scientist. Well, let's get into the episode 2 Lanes Diverged, which, has a pun in there for lanes of a road, and then two lanes in the family. So a little bit of a double meaning there. But this episode description from Max reads, quote, "When Jimmy is invited to speak at the Star Lab Symposium, Clark is happy to come along as support. Until Lex Luthor takes over! Exclamation
dun, dun,
point. Meanwhile, the general goes on the run and Lois runs after him. Visions of their past clashing with the present, unquote. So I guess the first thing we could talk about in the episode was actually kind of a serious relationship drama, I thought.
Yeah.
Between the young Lois and even the adult Lois and the general, Sam Lane, her father. And I was curious, what did you think about the flashbacks and how that informed their relationship as we got to the present?
Yeah, I really liked the way that they used the flashbacks in this episode to like give us a little bit more information about the relationship between Lois and her dad. So you kind of see a couple of different flashbacks of her days tracking in the woods with her dad, which seems like their daddy-daughter time, but like maybe not fun.
He called her a cadet, so he was training her.
He was training her to be able to find her way in the woods using the North Star, no matter where she was. Important life skills. I mean, I feel like maybe he didn't need to like sneak off in the middle of the night like he had been, eaten by a bear. But I guess she found him, so all that work paid off. But I think it really does give you a good idea of their relationship throughout the years and how it's sort of grown and evolved, and I guess maybe devolved in some ways, because when you see young Lois, she and her dad seem a lot closer, but the older she gets, the more I think she's fed up with him and some of the kind of insane ways that he wants to teach her how to do things for herself. But even as a little girl, you see that like she has some questions about her mom and why her mom never has any energy anymore and doesn't want to do things. And I mean, I think you can kind of see the beginning of their falling out there, because little Lois doesn't understand that her mom is sick, and he's not telling her that, which is, probably not a great thing. She talks about in season 1 how she didn't really know her mom was sick until like very late, and it was basically kind of too late to do anything about it. And you can see here that like he kind of brushes it off like, oh yeah, no big deal. So I think it was nice to get that backstory between the two of them and to really flesh out that relationship, especially since the whole episode was really about them, and their relationship and how much she wants him to stick around and kind of do things together, and how he is so afraid of her getting hurt that he kind of pulls himself away and leaves at the end, just kind of like he's left her many times in the past. So I think as like a character study with these two characters and their father-daughter relationship, I thought it was really well done. I liked the way that they deployed the flashbacks.
Yeah, I felt for both of them, because I would imagine that the issue with the mother being sick, I'm sure that was very hard on the general. I'm sure Sam Lane took that very hard, and maybe he only acted out the way he did because that was the only way he knew how to handle it, and the only way he knew to go through the grieving process, or in terms of being sad, is just to move on and treat it like, treat Lois like one of his cadets, one of his people in the military, and just treat that as a training exercise, and not knowing how to raise a daughter by himself. That kind of stuff, I can see that being difficult from his point of view. But I was really sad for Lois as well, because I think she just wants to have somebody around. I feel like she felt really isolated. What I thought was really impactful was when he tries to be involved in her life, and he says, "How is so and so?" Asking about one of her friends, and she's like, "That was from 3 deployments ago. I don't see her anymore." And he asked about another friend. She doesn't keep up with that person anymore. And Lois has no friends. She has no mom, and her dad is absent, emotionally, I guess. And so I really felt for Lois that she was really isolated and lonely. And I can see how that could feed into her relationship, where she just really wants her dad to stick around and be part of her life. So, oh man, just gut wrenching in terms of like the emotion and the narrative in that storyline. And what's sad is at the end of the episode, he's gone. He leaves her. He leaves her again.
He's left again in at the end of the episode. And I really did like the way that they like through the flashback show us how isolated and alone she is, mentioning how many times they're deployed and how none of her friends, it's hard to keep up with her friends when she's only in a place for a certain amount of time. And I thought that really brought like the loneliness of the character to the forefront. And I think also when you see her relationships with like Clark and Jimmy and how close they are and how important those relationships are to her, it's easier to understand because, she didn't grow up with having a lot of close friendships or close relationships because he was constantly moving, and also because he wasn't, very warm and cuddly. He wasn't, he was off doing his secret stuff that she wasn't allowed to know about because it was classified. And so I think she felt like really, really lonely and alone. And I think that kind of makes sense for the character and why she sometimes goes off and does things by herself, because she's just so used to doing that.
Yeah, and I hadn't thought about this when I was making notes about it, but just in talking about the isolation and the loneliness, I think it's really cool that the show has paralleled Clark and Lois in this way, because Superman, to a degree, he's starting to feel really isolated and alone as the alien amongst them. That in this episode, I think, is the one that Lex says Earth is for Earthlings. And so really basically says, like, Superman is not welcomed here. And that drives Clark to finally want to push that button on that beacon to try to find somebody, his cousin Kara, who would make him feel less alone, his family. And so I think Lois is on that same kind of journey, that she is trying to connect with another one of her family members and try to be less alone. And so I like that narratively, that I don't know if they've unintentionally paralleled them as such, but I think you can make that connection. So I really like that.
I saw an interesting comment from Mark, who says she apparently doesn't have Lucy in this either.
They have not mentioned a Lucy Lane.
They haven't. So that makes me wonder, is there no Lucy Lane in this version of the show? Because she usually does have a younger sister, but they have yet to mention Lucy in this. So it seems like maybe she's an only child here. Maybe she has to find a beacon to alert her sister and find her long lost sister. Maybe that's Lucy. or I don't know. I mean, maybe they could always introduce a Lucy later, that like she's like something happened to her as a child, and now she's resurfacing. Your sister Lucy. Yeah. Or maybe Lucy in this version is like her cousin or something. I think that could also work and still have like the same backstory for her, because it doesn't. It would feel very weird, I have to say, after like the last couple episodes, to find out that secretly there's like a little girl behind her crying and being like, "Can we hang out?" like when she like gets out of the tent and sees that her dad is gone and just goes out tracking, like there's like a little head that pokes out that's like, "Wait, are you gone now too?"
Oh, poor little Lucy. That would be so sad.
In all of those flashback scenes, Lucy's just behind like a bush somewhere that's like, "Hey guys,
hey, I'm here. I'm over here." Yeah. Well, no, I'm going soap opera storytelling here, that she could just show up at any time and be
her
like,
long lost sister Lucy.
"Hi, Lois Lane. I am your sister. You did not know that you had, but I am here now." that feels like a very soap opera thing to do, which is not the genre that My Adventures with Superman sits in. But I feel like
it's not. But okay, I'm going to pitch something that is wild.
Yes, let's go.
Okay, Lucy pops up. She's her long lost sister, but they're only half sisters because her mother
is Mandy.
Yeah. We've got it.
That's how we do it. I like
Listen, I'm pitching out free ideas if they want to take them.
Well, and Lucy was the more of the military minded of the two sisters.
True. That is true.
So I could buy that Lucy would have been the daughter of Mandy Waller.
I mean, I'm just saying it's a good idea.
I think so.
It's a good free idea.
You can make it work both ways. So yeah, I really like that storytelling there. And so I guess that leads us into two segues I guess we could take here. So since we've been talking about the isolation and the using of the beacon to try to contact Kara, what did you think about that, Morgan? Are we going to see Kara sooner or later? Because I mean,
Kara.
It's like pants.
I feel like Kara is like maybe 1 to 2 episodes away
Yeah.
at this point.
He
I
has
feel
to
like
be coming.
they can't drag it out any longer now that he's used the beacon. I feel like episode 5, episode 6, Kara's coming in, which is great because I was a little bit afraid that they were gonna pop Kara in at the very end of the season, so that we don't really have enough time to like get to know the character or like really introduce the character. But introducing her about halfway through the season seems perfect to me because then you get a lot of Kara time in season 2, which is of course what we want. So when he hit the beacon, I was like, yeah, hit that beacon. No, there will be no negative repercussions for this.
Well,
maybe the brainiacs will all come. That's fine though. Kara's here.
well, that is a good question though, because there is a looming figure at the end of this episode that's like hovering over Earth, and I was of two minds about it. Could that be Kara somehow like masked? You know, like maybe she's coming, but like she's wearing, I don't know, some sort of tech to hide her face.
Maybe.
Or is it just a brainiac who's like, "Hi, I'm evil, and I'm gonna come wreck your planet." It could be that too.
Interesting. I didn't think about it being Kara. I thought it was maybe that the beacon had created some like sign that the
Yes.
brainiacs also caught that were like, what?
Yes, I think that's a more likely scenario, but I did wonder if it somehow was drawing Kara there as well. I mean, it's probably both. It's both of them are probably going to get the signal. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. And I felt for Clark because he really tried to be honest with Lois about it and tried to talk with her, and she kept pushing it off and pushing it
I
off.
know. How many times can this man try to tell you a secret?
Or at least like 3 episodes, maybe?
Yes. Yeah, I think about 3 episodes because he told her about his cousin being out there, but he didn't get to tell her about the beacon, and he's been trying.
Yeah,
She's
yes.
been like busy doing other things. It's like, well, I'm sorry, I have an alien beacon I wanted to talk to you about. But I did feel bad for Clark at the end. You know, he had overheard a bunch of people saying some not nice things about him, and then flew away before they said a nice thing about him.
Oh,
That's sort of a rookie mistake. You always gonna want to wait until somebody finishes their thought before you come to a conclusion. That's TV. That's a TV mistake, a common TV mistake. So it made sense to me where he was at the end of the episode that he would go like, you know what? It feels like these human people are just not understanding me. And you know who would? My cousin Kara, wherever she is, whoever she is. I'm hitting that beacon. I'm rolling the dice.
Yeah, so I'm pretty excited. Hopefully that means we'll see Kara sooner rather than later. The other segue into another topic of interest related to the Sam Lane, Lois Lane storyline was that in the midst of them running from Task Force X is the fact that we met another Superman rogue in this episode, Mr. Winslow Schott.
I wasn't really expecting it, and when they said the name, I went, "Whoa!" I was so excited to see Toyman. I thought it was really funny when Lois starts walking up to the teddy bear, and he's like, "Don't touch that!"
Yeah, not the teddy bear.
Not the teddy bear. It made me wonder with the way that when Winslow Schott sudden and inevitable betrayal to the Task Force X people. When Sam Lane just knew to grab the teddy bear and throw it. Like, does he know that Winslow Schott's like maybe creating a lot of explodey toys? He's like, oh, I know what Winslow's into. Like, I know what he's about, and it's making teddy bears that go boom. So obviously, this is a weapon that I could use. Or was that just a great coincidence?
Sam does call him a robotics and demolitions expert, and they've been old friends. So
So he probably knows that he likes to keep his explosions in the teddy bears.
And maybe maybe the general used him for those ends with the things that he was doing with the military. Maybe there was a teddy bear bomb.
Oh my God.
Usefulness in the military.
I bet there could be. You know, you never know when the teddy bear bombs are needed.
So yeah, they don't call him Toyman, so he may not be
No.
Toyman as of yet, but he has Toyman tendencies.
He's already exhibiting some Toyman behavior, let's put it that way. He's not un-Toyman-esque at this point in this story. But yeah, I got the impression that he hadn't quite transformed into Toyman, but he's dabbling, right? He's dabbling. He's putting those bombs in those teddy bears.
He is on his way. Speaking of someone who is dabbling into things, maybe he's dabbling into fame, maybe he's dabbling into new technologies or meeting new people. I suppose we should talk about the Star Labs Symposium and Jimmy Olsen, aka Flamebird, going to talk about the Superman problem, which he doesn't know is the topic of discussion. I should point that out. He has no idea that the topic of discussion is the Superman problem. But Morgan, what did you think about Jimmy and Clark going to the symposium?
I thought Jimmy and Clark, best bros, going to the symposium was really, really fun. Also, again, how much did he spend on that limousine? It seemed like too much, if I'm being honest.
So I do have the numbers here.
Okay.
So they do put up a net worth on the screen, and it starts at $3,574,082. And then once he gets into the limo, it goes down to $3,204,002, which I believe is a difference of $370,080.
What is he spending this on? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, a stretch limo for one evening is not $300,000. Yeah, I guess he bought he and Clark bespoke outfits, but even still, I feel like I'm having a hard time getting to these numbers that he's spending. Like, I feel like even a very rich person would not spend $300,000 on a limo and a tailored suit. Like, that just seems like too much to me.
What if they went to a fancy dinner?
Maybe they went to a fancy dinner beforehand, a very, very fancy dinner.
Maybe like a show. They took in a show somewhere.
Maybe they got bottle service at the club before they before they went there. I don't know.
It's easy to spend $300,000.
Who amongst
I've never
us?
done it, but I feel like I could do it.
Whom amongst us hasn't on a night out on occasion spent $300,000 on basically nothing? Yeah, I was like, oh, Jimmy's gonna be poor by the end of the season. Like, I already see it happening. It's happening bit by bit in front of our eyes. He is very bad at spending his money, and even worse, apparently, at making it. Like, I feel like all those rich guys, like, their money makes money, but his money is just depleting. He's making no additional money.
No additional money. And so there is that. But what did you think about him wanting Clark to come with him and be his hype man? And what did you think about how Jimmy handled the situation at the Star Lab Symposium?
I liked him being bringing Clark to be his hype man. I thought that was really cute. I think it was really nice to have like a Clark Jimmy episode, even though obviously it kind of goes wrong towards the end. But I really liked their like Willy Wonka moment where they're flying through the air, and I was like, holding hands or whatever, and Clark is like, "You've saved me so many times," and Jimmy cries, and then the tears float up. I thought that was really great. I do feel like, in terms of secret identity wise, Clark is just kind of walking around a tech symposium screaming that he's Superman a lot more than he probably should be. But I guess that's sort of a reoccurring Clark Kent, attribute. I feel like that every Superman show I've watched has him just kind of announcing his identity as if nobody could possibly be listening nearby. Kara did that a lot at the DEO, to the point where everyone at the DEO knew her secret identity and needed to have their brains wiped.
She was also on TV a lot, so
much.
She really did not care.
She was like, I don't think people are ever going to figure this out. And everybody around her is like, this is so awkward. We've known for a really long time.
And then by the end of the show, of course, she was just like, you know what? For the two people in National City who do not know my secret identity, Here I am on news talking to Cat Grant about me being Supergirl. We're just gonna do it. So.
You know what's really funny is I'm seeing in the chat, Mark mentions real estate closing as being a big cost, and this just made me realize Jimmy has somewhere began the season with like $5 million. He's now down to like $3 million.
Mm-hmm.
But $3 million is still a lot of money. He's still living with Clark in that apartment. I might have bought myself. I might have invested in some real estate at this point.
If I was Clark, I would be like, hey, can you use that money and like we can get a new big place and can I live there? I would be talking my friend into buying a new place for sure.
I'd be like, Jimmy, this just isn't big enough for all our dreams. We need to buy a new place.
And this would solve the General Lane problem where
then he could have his little wing of the house.
And it could be like a secret protected area where nobody can find him.
Yeah, he could make his own bat cave, his Superman cave, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think they're using Jimmy's newfound wealth
very
wisely.
I feel like, again, we need to get a financial advisor for Jimmy. We need to start spending smart, not spending hard, you know? But it's so funny that I hadn't considered that he's got millions of dollars, but he's still living in that same small apartment with Clark.
And he's having to do, I guess, his own laundry. He was messing around with Clark's laundry. And it's like, well, you could hire a whole team of people to like do all the things for you.
At the very least, you can bring it to a wash and fold. I think you have the money.
Yeah. So Jimmy not being super wise with the things that he's investing in. And why doesn't he? Here's what he could do. He could take the flying newsroom and trademark it.
Yes.
And then he could start to sell drones that are fully functional, like traveling newsrooms.
I see Marcy in the chat says Shark Tank moment. I feel like Jimmy has a lot of Shark Tank opportunities, you know, that he can just get out there, start hustling, start making his money work for him, start making Flamebird spinoffs, you know?
Oh, don't do this to me.
He's got a very popular brand. Why can't we buy that Flamebird jacket? I don't understand.
Yeah, that needs to happen. He also has Flamebird shoes.
Oh, neat. I'll buy the whole outfit.
So, Morgan, are there any other thoughts that you had about this one, and what were your overall thoughts?
I think that the Superman debate aspect of the episode was really interesting because we get our first taste of like really evil Lex Luthor popping up. He's not calling himself Alex anymore. He's dropped the A. He's just Lex now. He's sort of transforming into a cooler tech bro guy. It's working for him. He seems to be getting a lot of buzz in the tech spaces now, with his little glasses and everything. I think the concept of a debate where the other person is not ready for it to be a debate and hasn't prepared in any way, while you are very well prepared, is very funny. Not really in the spirit of a debate. He's like, debate me, bro. He's like, I've got a bunch of points ready. What about you? And he was like, I'm not just here to talk about the Superman and technology. Not just here to talk about my brand, Flamebird.
Oh no.
So I did find that very funny. Like, even the way that Lex goes about the debate is evil. Like, just throwing Jimmy up there with no preparations, not ready to do this, and then just kind of like runs over Jimmy with his like, with his reasoning about how Superman is bad because Superman could choose at any moment to turn against them. He really did seem to convince a lot of powerful people in that room that Superman is a threat that maybe they should be keeping an eye on. Whereas Jimmy, I don't think convinced anyone of anything, unfortunately. He was a little too bamboozled. I thought that was a really uncool move on Lex's part to not be like, hey, like, we're going to be debating about the ethics of Superman, instead of being like, you're doing a presentation on Superman.
Yeah, one of those people that Lex convinces that Superman is a problem is Hank Henshaw. So I'm keeping my eye on Hank Henshaw.
That
I'm
guy,
paying attention to
I
that,
don't know why,
Carla.
but I don't trust that guy.
Yeah, and there were some other speakers at the symposium. They mentioned CEO Hamilton, which I think is a
Oh,
reference to Professor Emil Hamilton.
I think so.
There's also Pentagon General Wade Eiling, who is a DC Comics character. There's also Senator Sackett, who I think is supposed to be DC Comics' Bradford Sackett, who is mayor of Metropolis. So so he hasn't gotten to senator yet. He's just starting out in politics in his career there as mayor. So there are some pretty powerful people at this symposium for sure. And the thing that I find myself conflicted about with Lex is that, I mean, he kind of has a point. Like he kind of has a little bit of a point, and Superman to his unfortunate situation, he does make that point for Lex, because at the end there's a big fight that goes on, and Superman, he saves the day. He fights Atomic Skull and Damage and Deathstroke. All of these bad guys are fighting Superman and General Lane and Lois, and they kind of destroy stuff and things.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Pretty bad.
Not so great. Yeah, I did think that was a interesting timing. That they ended up fighting with Superman in the atrium of this presentation. So I wonder if there was a little bit of
a plant.
A little bit of planning going into that they were going after General Lane, hoping maybe that Superman would show up to save him, and then they could destroy some stuff and just be like, look at your technologies, he destroyed them. He's like, bro, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, I think that could have been set up by Lex to be part of his demonstration. He does let's see, he wants to know what security the public has against Superman. That was part of his presentation. And he calls Superman the #1 threat to humanity. So really, Lex is not a big fan of Superman. And he is really calling that out. And I don't know if it's because he really, truly believes that Superman is a danger, or if he just wants to use that as a way to make money for himself. Because if he calls Superman a threat, then he can be like, you give me all the money to make all these big technological things to fight Superman, and then I'll make a lot of money for my company. Because he assumes now LexCorp takes Amortech. So they sort of consume the business of Amortech, and everything within that IP, LexCorp has all of that now. So he's not only becoming a supervillain in his own right, he's becoming a little bit of a businessman. So Lex is really coming into his own as the Lex Luthor of Superman mythology. So lots of momentum here with Lex, a lot of character development for him.
Yeah, I really like what they're doing with Lex on the show, especially. I can't remember if we talked about it the last time, but the revelation that they told the creators of the show that they couldn't have Lex. And so they just sneakily introduced a character named Alex, who's in technology in a company, and then we're just like hoping that they could turn him into Lex. So I think they've done like a pretty good job at like a character arc for him that makes sense, and kind of turning him into the Lex Luthor that we know and fear. And I think he's already like well on his way. He's like fully tech bro. He's acquiring some companies and running them, and like making wheeling and dealing. I think that he's a pretty formidable character already, and we haven't seen that much of him.
I don't know if people remember, but back before the CW or the CBS Supergirl TV series, before it aired on CBS, there was some debate on Alex Danvers, and if she would turn out to be Supergirl's evil sister.
Ooh, like a Lex
like a
Oh,
Lex. There right at the beginning when Alex was mentioned, there was some debate.
I mean, and Kyler Lee did play a character named Lexi on Grey's Anatomy. It all like if I get out my red string and I start, it all makes sense.
I mean, quickly we realized the Danvers sisters were the heart of the show.
Obviously, yes.
But before we had more information, that was a topic of interest.
I mean, I'm glad that they went the way that they did go with the Danvers sisters. I will say, having like her sister turn out to be evil would have been pretty juicy, though.
Yeah, no, I think I would
Drama.
have been into it.
They could have, if done well, they could have convinced me to go along with that.
Yeah, I could have been into it. Well, I thought this was a great episode. Really furthering the character arcs and the dynamics between the the relationships. We get some new Superman villains. We get a lot of good Jimmy Olsen stuff, which I'm all into, and some really good stuff between Lois and her dad in this episode. So I thought all of this was very good. Another great episode of My Adventures with Superman with the Two Lanes Diverged episode. So solid stuff.
And I hope that Clark and Jimmy don't have too many problems from Lex's comment to Jimmy about how he was the inspiration, because Jimmy kind of freaks out and runs away, and Clark seems very hurt by that, even though all Jimmy told Lex was like, follow your dream, man. But he didn't know that Lex's dream was evil. That's the problem with telling somebody to follow their dream. You don't know what their dream is. You should probably find out what their dream is before telling them to follow it.
Maybe watch your words there. I think Jimmy probably runs away out of embarrassment. That's how I took it when I watched the episode. I thought that maybe Jimmy was embarrassed that maybe he let Clark down. So that's kind of how I took it with that. So I'll be curious to see if they address that later on. And hopefully it won't be too bad of a negative situation in their relationship, and Superman and Flamebird will get back to their bro ways. Okay, well, I think unless you have any other thoughts about the episode you want to share, we can move on to some Snap Judgments.
Ooh.
In the game of Snap Judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended, and explanations are unnecessary.
Okay, so our first Snap Judgment from Fullmetal Scientist. What's the more important feature of the Flying Newman?
Why did I put that? The Flying News. What was it called? The news. Oh crap! Why I've been talking about it. Hang on.
I do like the idea of it being the Flying Newman, because I imagine like Newman from Seinfeld.
I must have had the Young and the Restless on the brain. The Flying Newsroom is what it was probably just a typo on my part. The Flying Newsroom.
Okay. What is the more important feature of the Flying Newsroom? The Wi-Fi or the glitter gun?
I kind of feel like the Wi-Fi probably is. It's more universal. You could probably use it for more things. The glitter gun is fun, but like, how many times can you use that? Can you reload it? Do you have to reload it? Is that hard to reload it? So I would think the Wi-Fi is probably the more functional, useful part of the Flying Newsroom.
While the Wi-Fi is the more functional and important part of the Flying Newsroom, I would argue that the more important part is the glitter gun, because it adds a sense of whimsy. And what newsroom couldn't use a little sense of whimsy?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it is. Are there lots of instances where newsrooms have glitter? Is that authentic
Probably
and
not.
accurate to a newsroom?
I don't think I encountered much glitter in my time in journalism, but maybe I wasn't looking for it. Maybe the glitter is the friends you meet along the way.
Maybe they need to add whimsy to real newsrooms,
Exactly.
not just the flying ones.
Let's start throwing some glitter around, people. Make it fun. Okay, who had the better showmanship during the press conference? Thomas Weston, the CEO of Amertech, or his assistant, Audrey?
I thought Audrey was really keeping that presentation together. She was the one holding up the boombox. She was the one acting things out. She was really making it a presentation. So I'm going to go Audrey on this one.
I gotta go Audrey as well. Maybe she wasn't so excited to be there, but she had such a presence about her. She's holding things up and doing the thing. She was really committed, you know. She didn't want to be there, but she was committed.
Anything for the job.
Anything for the job. So let's wrap it up with our snap judgment for 2 Lanes Diverged. So most crucial item of clothing for a hype man, suit or sunglasses?
Oh, both pretty important, I think.
Both pretty important, but you got to pick one.
I think if you're going to be a hype man, I think the glasses give you more of a mystique. Like you shouldn't be wearing sunglasses inside, but you are. Why?
Who is this mysterious person?
Is this a famous person? I feel like this might be a famous person who's trying to hide the fact that he is a famous person inside this building during the daytime. So I think I'm going to go sunglasses, just because I think you could wear like a nice fancy suit, but then you're just like, you could just be like a boring guy in a nice suit. But the sunglasses, I think, adds a little something extra.
I agree. I feel like you got to go sunglasses. Even Clark's dorky sunglasses that like flipped up. Those aren't very cool. But again, if he had kept them down, very mysterious. With them up, not so cool. Down, mysterious. And I feel like that's what you need as a hype man. You need people to be like, ooh, that person seems important. That person seems really cool. Can he see indoors? He's got sunglasses on. His future's so bright. He gotta wear shades, you know? Like I think sunglasses. You can wear a suit any old place, but sunglasses indoors, that's hype man. That's hype man material.
No judgments on your snap judgments. Yes.
So I did see a question in the chat from Mark. He wants to know if we're going to talk about the preview at the end, return of the spoiler section. He has questions about the outfit a certain character wore. Now, my question is, have you seen the preview? Because I have not, because I watched it on Max, the best streaming service out there. Wink, wink. We're still trying to get Max money.
I should have like a little sound effects. Sound effect that goes with the wink. First of all, who said we were doing a spoiler section?
I don't.
First I've heard of it.
I think he was saying a return to the spoiler section when we used to talk about the previews for next week.
We used to do the spoiler section a long time ago. But I think I prefer not having a spoiler section, because then I'm not spoiled. That's the benefit of not having the spoiler section.
There you go.
So I don't watch the previews. I have no idea what's coming. That's the way, I just want to go in with it, fresh eyes on the episode. So I have no idea what a certain character wore or what character that Mark is talking about. I'm not sure. But I try to remain spoiler free as possible. So I only watch the episode of Max when it comes out. So I'm afraid I don't have any spoilery thoughts.
Now, I did see some stuff floating around on Twitter. I'm not going to get too into it. But what Mark is referencing is that a character in, I think, the next episode, or maybe one of the next episodes, has an outfit that is very similar to a character in Dragon Ball Z.
Whoa.
And he was wondering if that meant something, if it was a deliberate reference, if we were supposed to take something from that reference. Now, I didn't watch Dragon Ball Z. I was too busy watching Sailor Moon. Now, if this was a Sailor Moon reference, I'm your gal. As a Dragon Ball Z reference, I would probably have to loop in my husband. I don't think he remembers that much about Dragon Ball Z.
Is he around? Do we need to check with him?
I feel like we have a Dragon Ball question. I don't think he remembers enough of the show really to be able to weigh in on it.
We need like a mic button just in case we need to like.
Hold on. We got to hit the button and like the bat signal goes up. It's just the word CPA and he comes out of he jumps out. Yeah. So Again, I'm not your gal when it comes to Dragon Ball Z references. I'd have to like Google it. And much like Rebecca, I kind of also want to go in mostly not knowing what's going on, so I don't want to get too deep into it. But I think when we see the outfit, maybe I'll do a little research for that episode. I'll be able to bring some Dragon Ball Z knowledge to the table.
Okay.
To see if there's anything we can extrapolate from the similar outfit with the Dragon Ball Z character. Is there something we should read into it?
You are the anime expert of the
because I used to watch a lot of anime when I was like in middle school. I was like so into anime. But that my anime frame of reference does end sometime in the early 2000s. So not the most current is the problem.
The only Dragon Ball Z I know of is that Goku?
Yes.
Is that Dragon Ball Z?
That's Dragon Ball Z.
So that's really the only character I know. So
his hair gets big and goes up in the air.
Yeah,
goes blonde.
Yeah. I see cosplayers dressed as Goku at Dragon. But that's the extent of my Dragon Ball Z knowledge. I'm sure at one point at Turner I was working on Dragon Ball Z episodes, but I can't tell you what happened in those episodes. I didn't understand it.
Of the like 300 Dragon Ball Z episodes there were?
Lots of variations on the series. If I remember correctly, there was like main Dragon Ball Z, but there might have been like another show that was Dragon Ball Z, but it might have been called something slightly different. So yeah.
Dragon Ball Z had, hold on, I need to know this because Dragon Ball Z had a lot of episodes. And I would love to know how many episodes it had, because it was like probably 291 episodes.
So that's a lot of episodes.
So it's a commitment. Like if you wanted, again, maybe somebody pops up in a Dragon Ball Z outfit. I think, you've got a whole week. You have time to mainline like 291 episodes, right? To like get the context.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
I think that's everybody's homework for the next week is just to binge all of Dragon Ball Z. We'll all come back here having watched the entire show, and then we're just really going to get all the references. And I think that's going to enrich our viewing.
We could do a Dragon Ball Z pilot pod.
We could actually. I would actually kind of really love that.
Okay, well, maybe we'll put that on the agenda. So I'm sorry, Mark, we are not your Dragon Ball Z people. So if anybody in the chat has any thoughts about that, let Mark know. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. If you would like to contact us, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on X and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. If you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. And Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast and Multiverse of Color Network. So if you want to give those things a like and a follow and check them out on the websites and things, you can hang out with us as we go live and wired on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page. And DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store. So if you're in need of new DC TV related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, magnets, totes, bags, pins, phone cases, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
And since these 2 episodes of My Adventures with Superman talked about scientists, we have some science designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store that we would love to suggest.
Yeah, I thought we had some Star Lab shirts. The WB people have come in and said no more Star Labs. But we do have some science t-shirts or designs related to Barry Allen about because he was a forensic science scientist, I believe. So we have some of those kinds of designs in the TeePublic store if you want to check those out, because I tried to find some Star Lab stuff and I could not find them anymore. I'll try to keep looking, but we do have some really cool designs in the TeePublic store if you are in the need of new merch to support and represent your favorite DC comics character or a TV show or movie. And we would also like to thank our legion of super sponsors who support the Supergirl Radio Patreon page. These people are Michael, Anne Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Danny, Majuba, Zachary, Annie, and Rachel. And if you would like to become a Legion of Super sponsor, you can go to patreon.com/Supergirl Radio. And if you would like to follow me on the internet, you can do so by following me on Instagram at the Derby Kid. And I'm also on the social media platform Vero at Derby Kid, my favorite social media platform. And I also have a YouTube channel that you can follow at youtube.com/duckmilkprod.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Mojotastic, and also as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast, where we just talked about the movie that I was going to say it was a new movie, but apparently it made the festival circuit like 2 years ago. But it just popped up on Max called Am I Okay? So we asked, was Dakota Johnson okay? So if you want to know, you should listen to that episode. Kat and I also talked about the new movie that was just released on Netflix called Hitman. So that's the movie with Glenn Powell, and that's coming out. That episode's coming out later this week. So the way that you can find out about that is to follow the Legendary Ladies podcast on Instagram at the Legendary Ladies, on YouTube at the Legendary Ladies, where you can watch the episodes, and also you can follow us on Twitter at Legends_podcast.
I've been told that I need to watch that Hitman movie because the lead character might share the name of someone in my family.
That's right. He does. Oh, you definitely have to watch it then. Definitely.
Yes.
It is a trip. I didn't realize until I don't think it gives anything away, but I didn't realize until the end that the movie is loosely based on a true story. So after I finished the movie,
maybe it is someone in my family. Based on someone in my family.
If it is, I have so many questions for him. Because after I got done watching the movie, I looked up the article about the person, the main character of the movie, and I read it, and it was fascinating. It was really interesting stuff. So, I would highly recommend it. Maybe watch it with your family member. And as you're watching it, turn and say, "Is this you?" I think the character is also a professor. So, Rebecca, it could be. It could be.
There's a lot of similarities in that movie. So that's what I've been told. So I need to watch it to learn more about it. To see if this is if it is a true story based on my family's events. So we'll see. I'll report back. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And remember, being a leader isn't about telling people what to do. It's about lifting people up and letting them shine.
McGurk, I love typing.
Not mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is 𝙤𝙀 𝘼𝙙𝙫𝙀 Boardroom or Ballroom, because her outfit,
she looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.